morning and welcome to NetworkMarketingPro.com. My name is Eric Worre and I'm here with a very good friend, Mr. Chris Widener. Chris, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me.
He is a kind of a supporter and an advocate for everybody that's involved in the network marketing profession, as well as a best-selling author. Why don't you name some of the books that you've written?
Yep, best-selling book was The Angel Inside.
Yep.
Got to number 2 on the Wall Street Journal, number 7 on the New York Times. So
Nice.
pretty proud of that. Last book was called The Art of Influence, Becoming a Person Others Want to Follow.
Right, awesome. And you've done some stuff with the Jim Rohn stuff, and you're looking to follow up with that?
Yep, we wrote a book together called 12 Pillars, which is based on the information that Jim Rohn one-year program that I wrote with Jim. And we decided to come out with this book called 12 Pillars, and it sold very, very well, still does. And so now we've got a follow-up. So, the books that I write are fiction, little parables. And so we're taking the main character who had learned all the lessons in 12 Pillars, and we jumped him forward 30 years.
Nice.
And so what did he become, and what other lessons did he learn? So, yeah.
What was it like working with Jim Rohn?
Jim's an amazing guy. I've been so fortunate to work with a number of different, what we call legends. I had a TV show with Zig Ziglar, and got to co-write this book with Jim Rohn, and it's really pretty amazing when you look at these long careers.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can blow up and get big for a couple of years, but the thing that I really appreciate about people like Jim and Zig is the longevity that they had. In fact, the subtitle of my new book, above all else, and subtitle is the most important lesson for achieving, sustaining, and enjoying success.
Mm.
Lots of people can achieve success, but the real secret is how do you sustain it and enjoy it at the same time. So that's the thing that I most appreciate about a guy like Jim. Doing it for 40 years, never having these big failures that took him out of the game, lives what he talks about. And so as a young guy coming up, you look at that, and I've done a lot of work with Jim, so people will say, are they sort of grooming you to be the next Jim Rohn? And I would say, well, number one, nobody's ever going to be nobody's ever going to be the next Jim Rohn. But if you give me 40 years, I'd love to be mentioned in the same breath with you.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
And that's what, we see speakers all the time. They come and they go. And for me, the goal for my life is to live it like guys like Jim and Zig and Charlie Tremendous Jones,
mm-hmm.
and people who've been able to sustain their success and finish well.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's talk. Our audience is interested in the network marketing profession. Yeah. They're interested in being able to learn information that will help further their careers, be able to develop their skills. Mm-hmm. What we were talking in the elevator on the way up to sit down here. Yeah. Why don't you share with them and share with me what we were talking about? The different kinds of income. What makes network marketing so special?
Yeah, it's important, I think, for people to understand what they've gotten themselves involved in. Because a lot of times people will join network marketing and they kind of get that, whoa, I can make a lot of money with not so much work, but they don't really understand the financial stuff beneath it, the foundation of it. So I ended up doing a little program called the Invisible Profit System, which is sort of just a third-party, independent, I have no skin in the game, just to look at the lay of the land. And one of the things, it comes really from Jim Rohn's old saying, profits are better than wages. And it got me to start thinking about how there's really only 2 economic systems that you can be under. You can either be in a wage system, where you're working for someone else, or you can be in the profit system, where you're working for yourself and you're earning the profits of it. And most people go into the wage system. In fact, what do your parents tell you to do? When you get out of high school, you're supposed to do what? Go to college and get a job. That's what everybody tells their kids, right? So we've sort of ingrained it. Go to college, get a job. And so we put most people into the wage system. And one of the things that's interesting, when you look at the wage system, millions and millions of people are in it. It's great if that's what you want to do. It's the backbone of society. They're terrific, wonderful, loving, kind, great people. But if you want financial success, you have to understand you can't get financial success in the wage system. Unless, here's my parentheses, unless you're part of 3 particular professions. There's only 3 professions, and if you think of another one, tell me. But at this point, I've only come up with 3 where you can actually get rich in a wage system. One is professional athletes. Okay, so professional athletes are working in a wage system. happens to be an extraordinarily enormous wage system, but they play for a season, they get $9 million.
Mm-hmm.
They play a game, they get $45,000. You know, they're still trading time for money. There's no, if they stop playing, they don't keep getting paid.
Right.
Okay, so they're in a wage system. The second that I found is entertainers, and really it's only the highest paid entertainers, but Jim Carrey, Tom Cruise, if they do a movie, they'll give them 6 weeks, they get $20 million, still trading time for money. And then the third one is the upper echelon of Fortune 500 companies, C-level Fortune 500 companies. But what's interesting about that is that even at that level, you know, they're making a great income, a great wage, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year, something like that. But people watching, they might say, well, wait a minute, I just read in the paper that Joe Schmo, CEO of XYZ Corporation, made $30 million last year. Well, here's the problem. That $30 million wasn't wage. Most of it was ownership. So they're still making a great wage, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. Some will get $1 million, but most of their stuff is put into the profit portion of it. So other than those three, if you can throw a football 50 yards and hit a guy who's running a 4.240 dead on, if you can dunk a basketball, if you can, you know, guard Michael Jordan, you know, if you can shoot a hockey puck, you know, through 4 guys, if you can play pro sports, but when you look at it, there's only about 4,000 professional athletes in the 4 major sports. And then let's take all the entertainers, the rock stars, the movie, you know, actors and actresses. You're probably talking about another, you know, world of 1,000 people. And then you take the C-level of Fortune 500, there's usually 3 or 4, we'll call it 4, of Fortune 500, that's 2,000 more. So you're talking about a population of 7,000 to 10,000 people out of a population of 320 million.
Just here in the United States.
Just here in the United States, let alone worldwide. So the chances of you making and gaining wealth in the wage system is virtually nil. If you want to be in the wage system and live, you know, paycheck to paycheck, that's great, no problem. But here's the problem. You ask most people, would you like to be rich? Yeah, I'd love to be rich. Would you like to be financially independent? Yeah, I'd love to be financially independent. Well, they're still in the wage system. It's like in Seattle, it's like me saying I want to go to New York, but getting on I-5 South. I end up, it's not bad to be on I-5 South, but I'm ended up in San Diego, not New York. And so, do you want to go to New York? Yeah, I want to go to New York. Well, you're on I-5 South. You have to get on I-90 East to start moving that way. And a lot of people just don't understand that. You can't get wealthy, gain long-term wealth. So you got to get into the profit system. You have to somehow make profits. You have to take ownership. And most people stay in the wage system because it's low risk.
They think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you know, if you go to college and you get a degree, you know, it's like Jim Rohn always says, formal education will make you a living. And that's true. Get a formal education. You'll always make a living. You know, you'll always be able to. You might get a little behind on your credit cards. You might not be able to live in the house you want to, but you know, if you're relatively talented, you'll always make a living. So it's low risk, but it's also low reward.
Right.
So the vast majority of millionaires in America are independent business owners, and so the reason there's so few of them is because it's high risk, high reward. So the first profit system that we talk about is the traditional profit system. And that's where the bulk of America's millionaires are. You read a book like Millionaire Next Door or something, they own a string of dry cleaners, or they own a couple successful restaurants. But the downside to the traditional profit system is that it's enormous risk. If you want to open a restaurant, it's going to cost you a lot of money. A lot of people don't. In fact, I have a friend who he owns an IHOP, International House Pancakes. And he clears $250,000 a year. That's his salary. I mean, that's his profit off of this IHOP. But he paid $1 million for it. Well, the vast majority of people do not have $1 million to sink into it. So there's this high threshold for getting into it. If you can get into it, it's great. Kick off $250 a year, you know. So if I were going to start a traditional business, I'd probably go the route of a franchise. You know, because it's turnkey, they do a lot of the, you know, you get to take their colors and they're sharing their advertising. Let's take a Subway sandwich shop. It's going to cost you $250,000 just to become their franchisee. Then you have to go out and you have to get the real estate. You have to, you know, all the stuff that goes into starting a traditional business. All the way down to you got to buy the ovens and the chairs, and down to you got to hire employees and get a business like all that stuff wrapped up in a traditional business. But you could make a lot of great money for it. Now, the best thing that can happen to you in a traditional business is you're successful at it, and what do? You want to expand. But that's also the downside. Because what do you have to do to expand? You got to go to the next town. You got to rent some more space. You got to hire more employees. You got to pay another. They probably give you a discount if you're going in for your second franchisee thing. But all of a sudden, it's still high risk, potentially high reward, but still high risk. So I started thinking, okay, is there something that combines the low risk, high reward? And it's what we call the leverage profit system, leveraging. Now, I'm not in network marketing, but I also live on a leveraged. I actually have a mixture of wage-based and leverage-based.
Right, sure.
So when I show up to speak, someone pays me X amount of dollars, and I'm trading time for money. But I've also built, as a significant portion of my business, where I leverage that through products and books and royalties. I write a book once, I get paid on it forever. I do an audio program once, I get paid on it forever. So it's leveraging, so you're not trading time for money. In fact, really, one of the main reasons, other than helping people to go out and speak, is to drive the leverage part of your business. Mm-hmm. So I understand the leverage part, and that's what network marketing really is. It's leveraging. How can I do something once and get paid on it as it begins to spread more and more and more and building a network? You're getting paid for marketing through a network. And so now people are starting to go, oh, yeah, that's the difference. I'm trading time for money, and most of the time, not much money. Or I can do something once, and then that just takes a little foothold, but then it grows to a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And where we came up with the invisible profit system is most of the network marketing companies, they do everything for you. Mm-hmm. I like to be, I'll be speaking to a network marketing company, and I'll say, how many of you are mixing the products at your kitchen sink?
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
How many of you did the last brochure for you? Nobody. How many of you have to calculate what everybody in your downline earned, partition it up, and send royalty check? Nobody. So their business is really invisible. I mean, it's a business that exists. I have a friend. She makes, in the $300,000 to $400,000 a month range, and she runs it out of her home office. And her admin lives up north, and it's amazing. When you start looking at the volume that she does, some $700 million a year in her group. Well, if you were going to start a traditional manufacturing company that did $700 million a year, what would it take? No one could do it. And yet she's a former swim coach. And, it's just, it's really amazing. She got into network marketing, built that business, and has done phenomenal with it. And so that's the thing, the fundamental thing that people need to understand. Am I going to be in the wage system, or am I going to be in the profit system? And then understanding the benefit of what they're involved with network marketing. They have the low risk. What's it cost to get into most network markets? Some of them you get in for $29 up to $1,000, $1,500, something like that. Versus $250,000 for a franchise fee, signing your name to a lease on a spot that's going to cost you $5,000 a month for 3 years with a personal guarantee. All of a sudden you kind of go, wow. But you can earn a tremendous amount of residual income if you give it enough time, to let it go. It's funny when you think about a traditional business. If you were to open up a Subway sandwich shop, after 6 months you wouldn't say, I'm going to quit because nobody likes ham and cheese. You wouldn't do it. And yet, in network marketing, a lot of times people quit. They quit before payday. They quit partly because the strength is also the weakness. It takes so little to get in, it also takes so little to get out. Mm-hmm. And if they just stick around long enough and understand the nature of the leveraged part, that it's not something you're going to come out and make $10,000 a month right away. Some people do. You and I have met them, but they're the exception, not the rule. But I did a research project about 5 years ago with a bunch of 7 or 8 network marketing professionals, all the top 10 income earners. The least amount that any of them made was $80,000 a month, and the highest was about $400,000 a month. Now, what was interesting was that the one who made the $400,000, she was in the business 21 years, and she made the most, and she was the longest of any. The one who made the $80,000 was the guy out of all of them that had been in the least amount of time. So you can really see this time frame aspect of it, where it just doubles and doubles. It's the law of compound interest.
What else did you learn from that little case study?
It was funny. I asked. It was specifically designed. I said, "What would you tell people who are just getting started?" And we had men, women, as old as 50, as young as 32, and a couple things that I always remembered from them. One guy said, he's 32. And at the time, he was making about 80 grand a month. He was my youngest guy and the least amount of money per month. And he said, Chris, tell them not to quit. And I said, okay, what's behind that? He said, when I had been in the business for 3 years, I did not have one single person in my downline. And he said, not only did I not have anyone in my downline, I had never had anyone in my downline. He had never in 3 years signed anybody up. But he said, I believed in the company, I believed in the products, and I believed in the theory of network marketing. So he stayed with it. At the end of 5 years, he was making 20 grand a month. And at the end of 7 years, when I was doing this project, he was making about 80 grand a month. And now he's up into the 6 figures per month. But he said, tell him not to quit. And it reminds me, I always give Tony Robbins the credit for it. I don't know if he's the first one to say it. But he always says most people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And so I love that for network marketers. Because, you know, what percentage of people quit? Some people always throw the number 90%. They quit in the first year because they overestimated what they could do in a year. If they stick it out the next 9, they will have underestimated. You know, because they think, well, I'm going to make 10 grand a month. And at the end of a year, they're making 600 a month. And well, these people lied to me and they told me, blah, blah, blah. And all they wanted to make was 10 grand a month. But if they stick it out the next 9 years, they'd be making 100 grand a month. They will have underestimated if they would allow this thing to grow organically, which is the philosophy behind a leveraged profit system.
Yeah.
And so don't quit was the one. And the other thing that I'm always reminded of is to just keep it simple. I asked this gal one time, I said, she's a big network marketer, and I said, what would you do if they stripped you of your business, said, you know what, we've got this new rule. Once you're making this much money, got to start all over again. And she said, no problem. And I said, well, what would you do? And she said, I'd fill my calendar. And I thought, it's just simply profound. Everybody's running around doing all these different things, trying to figure it out. And the person who succeeded the most, she said, oh, I know what I do. I just fill my calendar.
That was it.
I'll meet you at Starbucks at 9, I'll meet you at Starbucks at 10, I'll meet you at your home at 11, and just fill my calendar and tell people 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 and tell people.
I love that.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, she's one of the biggest network marketers in the country right now, and I love that simply, I'd fill my calendar.
What's she earning now?
She's up at near 400.
400,000 a month.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just love it. I'd fill my calendar. And you got all these people out there, how do you do it? What's the secret? Well, you make presentations. You fill your calendar and talk to some people. Talk to people. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen. All of this stuff is fantastic and it's amazing. And there are tens of thousands of people watching this program all over the world.
Yeah.
50 countries plus are watching what we're doing on a daily basis. They all want to become network marketing professionals, and they all are trying to unlock the code.
Yeah.
Do you have any particular message that you're kind of known for that would be valuable to them?
Yep.
And if you do, look into the camera and give it to them, would you?
Yep. So first of all, I want to say, especially the people who are watching outside the U.S., I'm really amazed at the opportunity that you have and excited for you to be able to take capitalism and bring it into your own life and take control of your own life, take charge of your destiny, gain financial freedom, time freedom for yourself and for your family and for generations to come. So you have a special place in my heart. Everybody in America, love you, but I feel a special place in my heart for people outside the U.S. who are building their own businesses. It's exciting to see what you can participate in. In terms of sort of my special message, one of the things that I talk about a lot is winning with influence. How do you win at life? By becoming an influential person. And influence, typically people think, what do I need to do to this other person to get them to come over to my side? And so influence is sort of persuasion based. What do I need to do to you to get you to believe what I believe? And what I like to do is sort of flip it upside down. Instead of saying, what do I need to do to them to get them to believe, I say, what do I need to do to myself? How do I transform myself so that other people view me with trust, respect, and admiration? How do I get it so that I've developed myself into the type of person that other people want to do business with me? And that's the key to it, is working on yourself. Jim Rohn has always said for years and years, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Now some people go, whoopee, I don't have to work hard on my job. No, you have to work hard on your job. You have to work hard on your business. Just work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Work hard on building your business, but work harder on yourself, because who you become is far more important than what you do. And here's why. Who we are drives what we do. What we do stems from how we think. and what's in our heart. And so working on our internal aspects, becoming a person of integrity, becoming a person with a positive, optimistic attitude, becoming a person who's servant-hearted. I love the old quote from Zig Ziglar. It's one of his most famous quotes. You can have anything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want out of life. And that's having a servant heart. That's an issue of the heart. And becoming a person who has high standards of excellence for themselves. Everything from the way we dress, the way we communicate, to the way we handle ourselves, all those kinds of things. Becoming a person other people want to do business with. It's a lot easier to influence someone when they want to be influenced, when they want to follow you, when they want to do business with you, when they want to buy from you. And so that's really an issue that we control ourselves. We can't control other people. We can only control ourselves. And if we make ourselves into the type of people other people trust, respect, and admire, then it makes building a business a lot easier. So,
well, Chris, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I really appreciate you being willing to share. And ladies and gentlemen, if you appreciated what you heard, please comment below. Let's have a discussion about the different things that he talked about. I think there's some great nuggets. I loved filling up your calendar. I thought that was amazing. But there's some great nuggets in there that I think we could all benefit from. So let me close by saying this. Ladies and gentlemen, my hope for you is that you choose to become a network marketing professional, that you decide to go pro. And if you do, then you can be the change, we can be the change that our great profession is looking for. So I hope you enjoyed this. Chris, thanks again.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.